Seasons change. Spring training slides into the regular season. Summer cools into fall. Leaves change their color. Lives change their shape. Change is life's only constant. AAA Insurance is here to be your guide through life's journey. Protect what matters most. Make sure you have the right insurance for whatever season of life you're in. Talk to your local AAA insurance agent today. Visit AAA.com for details.
Football represents something we are. Football is like life. You gotta push.
Fantasy football is about proving that you are better than your friends.
Hold up.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Faceoff.
I'm gonna do what's best for the team.
Where fantasy meets reality.
Pure fantasy football nirvana.
And now your hosts.
Let the games begin.
Anthony Cervino and Michael Hoff.
And welcome back to the FF Faceoff, where fantasy meets reality. It is always great to have you with us for an absolutely loaded fantasy football team preview of the Los Angeles Rams edition of the most dynamic fantasy football podcast on the planet, which is now part of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. And as always, we have a lot to talk about right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best in the world!
Coming to you live from the FF Faceoff studio at the gorgeous Jersey Shore, I am your host, Anthony Cervino. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. And while you're at it, be sure to follow the show at the FF Faceoff as well. You can find us on all of the top social media platforms. On our team previews and individual player profiles, we want to try to get right to the point. So let's get right into the action. But first, a short public service announcement from His Lordship.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Alright guys, you know the drill. If you like today's episode and subscribe to the channel, please leave us a comment saying that you have subscribed, and once you're done, we will reply back to as many as we can to show our appreciation to you. I also like to remind you that if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or any podcast platform that allows you the opportunity to leave us a 5-star rating and review, please subscribe. Please leave us a 5-star rating and a 5-star review with some kind words telling everyone why you love the show and why we are the best damn fantasy football podcast on the planet, because the more subscriptions, ratings, and reviews that we get, the more people we could reach, and in the end, we want to help each and every one of you win fantasy football championships, dominate your leagues, and absolutely positively crush the competition. We have received an influx of 5-star ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts in the past week. So for anybody who left us a review, thank you. And for anybody who is willing to leave us a review, you can do that right now as you're listening to the show. You can also subscribe and hit the alert icon so you can be notified anytime that we are live or upload. Right now, while you're listening, these engagements and interactions, you don't have to turn off the show. It takes you 30 seconds to do any one of these. And of course, we thank you in advance. And now that that's all out of the way, let's get into our Los Angeles Rams team preview. All right, so the Rams, a very volatile team. They have an explosive offense when all of their pieces are on the field. And when I say all of their pieces, I'm including Cooper Kupp and Todd Gurley. But what we saw last year, the Rams, after losing Cooper Kupp, especially Jared Goff, didn't exactly look the same. And we're going to get into Cooper Kupp a little bit later. But right now we're going to focus on Jared Goff. And We're going to talk about Todd Gurley, obviously, a little bit later. But my burning question with Jared Goff is, how is he going to fare without Todd Gurley? Jared Goff last season had a pretty big year, finished as the QB7, but he finished as the QB7 while only finishing each week as a QB1 5 times. But in those 5 games, he finished as a QB6 or better. In the rest of the games, he was very volatile. His weekly volatility score at Player Profiler was 10.3. And you know, any number over a 10.0 is considered extremely volatile. So that's what you're dealing with Jared Goff, is a ton of volatility. The Rams passed the ball 37.6 times per game, 14th best amongst all the NFL teams, right in the middle of the pack. They were a very balanced offense. Goff, 562 attempts, 101 red zone attempts, which was good for second most in the league. Number 8 in deep ball attempts, with 71. Number 12 with supporting cast efficiency, with a plus 5.61 rating, 14 in protection rate, and that's a key stat. He was number 14 in protection rate, and that was with John Sullivan and Roger Saffold. And now, as you know, John Sullivan has moved on. I believe he is retired. And Saffold signed elsewhere. So the Rams are going to have 2 new starters in the interior of their defense, which could mean Jared Goff could be seeing a ton of pressure coming up the middle, especially if their new starters have an issue developing quickly. Goff finished 4th in passing yards, 3rd in air yards, 5th in pass attempt distance, number 1 in money throws, also number 1 in interceptable passes, number 1 in danger plays, and number 6 in passing touchdowns. So as productive and as efficient that he was, he throws a lot of risky passes, which could result in negative plays and interceptions. And if you're playing in a league that deducts you for interceptions and pick sixes, you might want to adjust your rankings on how you are looking at and drafting Jared Goff. He threw 12 picks last year. Currently, Jared Goff is going as a 12th quarterback off the board, 10th pick in the 9th round, in PPR leagues, over at Fantasy Football Calculator. Cam Newton is going ahead of him. Surprisingly, mind-blowing, Kyler Murray is going in front of him, and Jameis Winston and Rivers are going right behind him. I don't mind Jared Goff at his ADP, but in my personal rankings, I actually do have Dak Prescott, who is going as a 17th quarterback off the board, 8th pick in the 11th round. I have him ranked ahead of Jared Goff because I do believe Jared Goff could struggle if Todd Gurley misses time or is extremely limited, as we are projecting him to be. And like I said, we'll get to Gurley in a couple minutes. So if you're thinking about taking Jared Goff, I'd wait, bolster the rest of your team. I mean, in the 9th round, you could be bolstering your depth and go get Dak a little bit later, because a lot of fantasy players are sleeping on Dak Prescott and his upside, and the upside that he brings with his rushing floor, rushing for 6 touchdowns in each of his first 3 seasons in the league. He has also finished as a QB1 in each of his first 3 seasons in the league. Dak Prescott is a much safer pick than Jared Goff. Now, let's move on to Todd Gurley. And Todd Gurley, we know the deal. If you've listened to the show all offseason, I've been all over this Todd Gurley scenario. I've been all over monitoring what everyone is saying about his knee, and the arthritis is nothing to overlook. We know what Todd Gurley can bring. when we know we are getting a healthy Todd Gurley for a full 16-game slate. He is an elite running back under those circumstances. Gurley finished as the running back 3, playing in 14 games. Missed the final 2 with the knee. Todd Gurley is headed down a high variance territory in fantasy football because he is either viewed at his current ADP, which now sits as the RB11, 6th pick in the second round. He is either viewed as a tremendous value at that ADP, possibly a league winner, or still is viewed as a risky pick. Because in that second round, you could be taking an Amari Cooper, a T.Y. Hilton, one of those big-time receivers. You could be taking a big-time top 3 tight end. Or you could be taking a Damian Williams or a Nick Chubb over Todd Gurley, which might be a little bit safer. If you're trying to hit the home run and you believe Todd Gurley is just going to be Todd Gurley, I think you're mistaken, because arthritis, number one, it's a pain control thing. Arthritis can happen at any time. You know, arthritis can flare up in the gym while you're running. Never mind the pressure that you're putting on the knee during an NFL football game. If you think back to 2017 with Ezekiel Elliott, and Ezekiel Elliott was facing that 6-game suspension, which he eventually served. Ezekiel Elliott's ADP fell right around to the 5th pick in the second round. And you're building in those 6 games missed into that ADP. And sure enough, Todd Gurley in PPR leagues in 2017 finished as the RB12. He finished at his ADP. If you're drafting Todd Gurley at his current second round, mid-second round ADP, you're assuming he is either going to miss 6 games or have 6 games worth of touches taken out of his normal allotment. On the other side of it, he could miss a lot more than 6 games. He could, ultimately suffer a season-ending injury. We don't know. There is too much risk here for my liking taking Todd Gurley at his current ADP. I get that the time missed, the touches missed are built in. But I'm thinking about long term. They could shut him down, especially if Darrell Henderson and especially if Malcolm Brown couldn't. I don't know if they could possibly, they're not going to give you what Todd Gurley gave you. But if they could be efficient and sufficient replacements as a tandem, the Rams might say, hey, look, we can still make the playoffs if we limit or shut down Todd Gurley until December or January, and we can run with our younger legs, our fresher legs, our healthy legs. Because that's what the Rams care about. They don't give a damn about our fantasy football team. They want to win championships, and they might think, hey, let's limit this guy. Let's get there with our younger players, with our fresh and healthy backs. Let's, they just need to produce enough to open up the field for Jared Goff to be efficient as a passer. And then we'll employ Todd Gurley in January, or if they really need to win a game. That is the issue with Todd Gurley, drafting him that early, even though at his second round ADP, all of the negatives are built in. He is still a risk to me. Moving on to the running backs we just talked about a little bit with Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. The Rams really like Malcolm Brown. Let's talk about him first. I did a video right at the beginning of the offseason about deep sleepers to target in dynasty leagues. A video and a podcast, obviously, and Malcolm Brown was it. Not only did Malcolm Brown receive a contract offer from the Detroit Lions, but he was a restricted free agent, and the Rams elected to match it, which triggered me to believe that there was more to this Todd Gurley injury. It also triggered to me that the Rams, despite having John Kelly, they really believe in Malcolm Brown. Then the Rams went ahead and drafted, with early draft capital, Darrell Henderson. They moved up to get another running back, which is a bigger indication that there is something wrong with Todd Gurley that could affect him long term. Right now, Darrell Henderson's ADP, 9th pick in the 6th round, going right behind Darius Geis, going right in front of Lamar Miller. To me, Darrell Henderson is a risk at that ADP because of what we don't know about Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley is that catalyst. He's this nucleus of unknowns with the Rams and drafting Rams players. Because we know what they are with him, but what are they without him? They played well with C.J. Anderson carrying the load. But could Darrell Henderson be that next guy? If I'm taking a risk, if I'm taking a flyer on a Rams running back, I am going to wait all the way back to the 14th round, the 60th running back off the board, and I'm going to get my guy Malcolm Brown. Because Malcolm Brown, low risk, if Gurley ends up playing well and looks like Gurley, all you did was wasted a 14th round pick on Malcolm Brown. If Gurley plays and looks like Gurley, you didn't waste a 6th round pick on Darrell Henderson. I understand it in Dynasty. I understand it in best ball. But in your normal leagues, your season-long leagues, Malcolm Brown is the safest Rams running back, low risk with possibly high upside. Built in, 60th running back off the board, 4th pick in the 14th round. The Rams really like him, otherwise they wouldn't have matched his restricted tender offer from the Detroit Lions. And should Malcolm Brown get an opportunity and produces, this guy could be a potential league winner in the 14th round. How could you not love it? Let's go to the wide receivers now. And the Rams wide receivers, there's such a high variance in the fantasy football community about who they like and why. Brandon Cooks is currently sitting with a 4th pick in the 4th round ADP. Robert Woods, 8th pick in the 4th round. Then Cooper Kupp, 12th pick in the 4th round. All of these Rams receiver assets have 4th round ADPs. Robert Woods was the most productive Rams wideout last year, finishing as a wide receiver 11 in PPR. Brandon Cooks, wide receiver 13, and we know Cooper Kupp only played in a half a season. The risk, my guy, is Cooper Kupp. But the risk that comes with Cooper Kupp is the fact that he suffered his injury so late into the season to where we don't know if he's going to open the year on a PUP list. We don't know if he doesn't open the year on a PUP list, which means he's going to miss 6 games. He could open the year inactive for the first couple of weeks. The last report that I've seen on Cooper Kupp from May 24th is that Cooper Kupp is taking his recovery day by day. And Kupp has worked off to the side during OTAs with trainers, only joining the rest of the team, and this is per Roto World for jog-throughs and walk-throughs. They say that he remains on track for week 1. If Cooper Kupp remains on track for week 1, and we don't hear any negative reports, He is the Rams wideout that I want. Think back to 2017 and 15 games. He was the number 8 wide receiver in 15 games with 23 red zone targets. He also was number 3 in red zone receptions and saw 6 targets, a 24% end zone target share. Look at last year. In only 8 games, despite only playing in 8 games, finished as a number 19 wide receiver in red zone target share, saw 12 red zone targets, saw 5 targets in the end zone, had 8 red zone receptions and was the wide receiver 20 in that, and scored 6 touchdowns. So in 2017 and 15 games, had 5 touchdowns. Last year had 6 in 8 games. Cooper Kupp is absolutely, positively, he is a de facto wide receiver to own from the Rams when it comes to red zone targets and efficiency. He is Jared Goff's red zone target. Not only that, Cooper Kupp is that unique slot receiver who can also burn you with big plays and big plays down the field. I want Cooper Kupp everywhere I could get him, even though he is a risk because of that. Is he going to be Cooper Kupp early in the season coming off of this ACL? He is the lowest risk receiver, 3rd Rams receiver taken off the board in the 4th round, and presents the biggest upside if he can stay healthy in a full 16-game slate. The other Rams receiver that I like in your season-long leagues is Robert Woods, because Robert Woods has been pretty consistent in the past couple of seasons, especially since joining the Rams and breaking out, I believe, in 2017. I believe Robert Woods, without Cooper Kupp, is more effective, but even with Cooper Kupp there, I think Robert Woods can still be a very productive fantasy football asset. He is the possession guy in this offense, where a Brandon Cooks is your boom-bust playmaker. I like Brandon Cooks a ton in best ball, but if I'm looking for consistency, Robert Woods might be that guy that I'm looking for on a week-to-week basis. This, aside from week 1 last season, where he only put up 7.3 fantasy points, and then week 17, where he put up 4.5, Robert Woods had at least, 12 fantasy points in every game in between. Soak that in for a second. And there's no guarantee, 9 times out of 10, Brandon Cooks is going to command the opposing defense's top coverage. So Robert Woods is also most likely is going to get, the second best cornerback, sometimes third, if the opposing defense's second best corner might be the slot guy covering Cooper Kupp. Lastly, again, Cooper Kupp, first one off the board, and to me, for your week-to-week, season-long leagues, he is the least draftable for me because of the high-variance, boom-bust consistency or lack thereof. All that being said, in the past couple of years, it doesn't really get much better than Brandon Cooks, right? I mean, Brandon Cooks in 2016, finished as a wide receiver 10 in New Orleans. In 2017, in his first year with the Rams, finished as a wide receiver 15. And then last year, in 2018, and this is without Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks finished as a wide receiver 13. So you're getting a fringe wide receiver 1, at worst wide receiver 15 out of Brandon Cooks. But again, he's either going to give you a big game or he might give you nothing. had a weekly volatility score of 7.0, which isn't terrible. It's not great, right in the middle of the pack. Had one, had 2, 3, had around 3 or 4 games of single-digit point scoring. With Cooper Kupp back, and Cooper Kupp being the player and the impact efficiency player that he is, I think Brandon Cooks could be in store for a regression, because in 2017, he had a couple of more single-digit scoring outings. In fact, in 2017, when Cooper Kupp played in 15 games, Brandon Cooks had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 single-digit outings when Cooper Kupp played in 15 games in 2017. The reason why Brandon Cooks was a little bit more effective last season is because Cooper Kupp missed the final 8 games of the year. So if I'm ranking Rams wide receivers, it's Cooper Kupp 1, Robert Woods 2, and Brandon Cooks 3 in your week-to-week season-long leagues. But if you're playing in a best ball league, then I might put Brandon Cooks ahead, followed by Cooper Kupp, then Robert Woods. Rams tight ends. Gerald Everett has been talked up so far this offseason. They say that Gerald Everett looks like he's ready to emerge. Gerald Everett has impressed during off-season workouts. But what we know is that Gerald Everett wasn't exactly utilized a ton when everybody is healthy. With Cooper Kupp out, we saw a little bit more action out of Gerald Everett, but because, and here's the cliche, because there are so many bodies and so many mouths to feed, there's that cliche. Gerald Everett is not a top-tier option. When Cooper Kupp was healthy and playing the first half of the year, Gerald Everett was nowhere to be found. With Cooper Kupp in the game in the first half of the year, Gerald Everett had fewer than 5.4 fantasy points per game through Week 8. Week 9, we saw a little bit more production. He saw a little bit of an uptick in production where without Cooper Kupp in the lineup, Gerald Everett in Week 9 at 7.8, Week 10, 9.5, Week 11, where he scored twice, 19.9, finishing as a tight end 3, Week 13, a tremendous dip, 1.7, Week 14, 6.9, Week 15, 9.6, Week 16, 9.4, and Week 17, a goose egg. So without Cooper Kupp in the lineup, we saw a more productive Gerald Everett. But considering Cooper Kupp is going to come back and we are presuming that he's going to be healthy, it takes away targets from Gerald Everett, making him a tremendous risk in fantasy. If you have him on your dynasty team, if you're taking a shot on Gerald Everett in a deeper best ball format, hats off to you. I don't blame you. But I wouldn't be targeting Gerald Everett in your week-to-week, season-long fantasy teams, because there are so many bodies on this team where he is very, very much injury dependent. And then forget about Tyler Higbee. He is not even on my radar anywhere. Maybe Tyler Higbee, ends up on another team in 2020 and can begin to be utilized a little bit better. But with so many bodies and so many other options for Jared Goff, the Rams tight end position is very volatile and very, very, very hard to trust. That'll do it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. We are going to be coming to you with the most notable and deepest fantasy team previews, with so much going on. We might not get to the Dolphins because they're a very low fantasy impact team. We might not get to, those teams like that, but we will bring you the Chiefs. We will bring you the powerhouses. We will, we have already done a Cowboys episode, so be on the lookout for more of these team previews and hopefully individual player previews as well. My name is Anthony Cervino. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. Follow the show at the FF Faceoff. Follow my co-host who will be joining me on Tuesday, Mike Hoff at the FF Realist. If you're listening right now in podcast format, especially those listening on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe. Please leave us a 5-star rating and a 5-star review telling everyone why you love the show and why we are the best damn fantasy football podcast on the planet. Because the more subscriptions, ratings, and reviews that we get, the more people we could reach. And in the end, we want to help each and every one of you win fantasy football championships, dominate your leagues, and absolutely positively crush the competition. We will maintain the culture of winning we've built here on the FF Faceoff for over 3 years since our inception now, and over 200 episodes. This show today was brought to you by FantasyFootballKing.com. FantasyFootballKing.com is a companion service, 100% fully discreet companion service, consulting service. You go to the website, see the different services we offer, and I say we is because I am one of their consultants. I could do a 1-hour consultation with you on the phone or video chat. I could help you out with draft strategy. Hell, I can do a full draft for you, and your league mates won't know because it is 100% discreet. We also offer week-to-week, season-long help as well, and a full-blown overall money-back guarantee if you let one of us or myself actually run your team, do it all from A to Z, a 100% refundable money-back guarantee. All you have to do is go to FantasyFootballKing.com for the details, fill out a contact sheet, and if you want me to be your guy, request me at Anthony Cervino, FantasyFootballKing.com. That'll do it for today's show. Follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. We will be coming to you on Tuesday with Mike Hoff for a Scott Fishbowl SFB 9 mock draft. Be on the lookout for it. Until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday.
Wave ahead! For 4 days only, it's the sizzling hot summer sale at JCPenney. Thursday through Sunday, shop select men's and women's tees in all new bright colors. Just $5 for her and $7.99 for him. Plus, pick up select Home Expressions bath towels, 2 for $7. All these deals and no coupon needed. Hurry in, but stay cool. These deals are sizzling. JCPenney. Offers valid 6/27 to 6/30. Exclusions apply. See store jcp.com for details.
The New Jersey Transit Police Department reminds you that we all need to work together to keep our transit system safe. Your attention is our most valuable asset. If you ride the train or bus, if you live or work near a station, be alert and aware of your surroundings. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. New Jersey Transit urges you to help us keep our transit system safe. Report suspicious activity to 1-888-TIPS-NJT or text your report to NJTPD.